Hello and welcome to Woman Heal Podcast, a sacred space for women to work through the hard stuff while becoming more self-aware, healing past wounds, and transforming into the highest version of themselves. Now more than ever is the time for us to deal with everything we have swept under the rug. Why? Because whatsoever you sweep under the rug today, you will trip over tomorrow. I am Carla Arcanon Lawrence, the Trailblazer, and over the last decade, I have served as a holistic transformation coach where I help women heal what's still hurting while discovering their authentic voice and awakening their inner boss. Be sure to follow the Woman Heal movement on Instagram and Facebook at Woman Heal Podcast. We are more than a podcast. Woman Heal is a movement on a mission to help women heal worldwide. Disclaimer. If you are battling anxiety or depression, please contact your medical doctor immediately and contact a licensed professional at psychologytoday.com. If you are having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. The advice I share on this podcast is not to replace the directives of your medical doctor or mental health provider. So today we have with us a very special guest, Latanya Barrett, who will be sharing her story of battling depression and overcoming childhood trauma. Latanya, take a moment and introduce yourself to our listeners.
All right. I am Latanya Barrett. I am a writer of my own blog, The Beauty of Butterflies. And I'm here today. To share my story.
Awesome. And so I want to just take a moment and celebrate you and just love on you, because sharing your story is never easy, And so I always say that anytime you share your story, allow yourself to feel the emotions that you feel. If you cry, if you have to pause and take a breath, because every time you share your story, you will experience another level of healing. And the great thing about this is women around the world are going to be able to hear this and know that they are not alone. They're not by themselves. And so share with the people how we got connected and how you found the podcast and all of that.
Well, Carla has worked with my sister, who is also a writer, and Carla and my sister collaborated on a book. She was my sister's book coach. My sister loves some Carla, and when Carla posted on her page about the Woman Heal podcast and just featuring different people, the questions that was laid out, I was like, check. Like these were all things that I had experienced in my own life and that were a part of my story. So I reached out and Carla reached back and she gave me an opportunity to come on her podcast and share my story.
Listen, I'm honored. I love it. I just believe our stories, no experience is ever wasted, and our stories are always beneficial and they're going to always be relevant. So with this being your first time, share with us, how do you feel right now in this moment? Are you nervous? Are you excited? What kind of emotions you got going on right now?
I got all the emotions going on right now. Like, I'm nervous, I'm excited. I feel empowered. Like I feel like I could feel myself just boosting up levels, like, just really happy to be able to use my voice and stand in my power and tell this story and feel like I can own it and speak my truth in hopes that it will help someone else.
And it will indeed. So let's get into it. You share with me that you were molested at 11 years old. Take us, I don't want to say take us back to that moment, but share that experience with us.
Yes, I was 11 years old and I was molested by a family friend. I kept that story to myself. I did not share it with anybody. I went through that alone. It was repeated and I more or less just dealt with it. A couple of people that did know about it, they just made me feel like it was my fault, like it was something that, I brought on myself. So I just carried that shame for a really long time, but it was something that happened to me while I was young and I just literally just got away and ended up moving on with my life, but I still carried like the shame and the guilt from
Mhm.
that experience with me, like throughout my life. So
Mhm. And we're gonna get into that. So what you shared, okay, so let's clarify. So the family friend, was that a male or a female?
male.
It was a male, because it happens on both
Oh yeah,
sides.
no, you're right.
Yeah, so it was a male, and this situation took place one time, and you said you didn't say anything, so it was reoccurring. It kept
Mhm.
happening. But
Yeah.
then you said certain people knew about it. So did you have the courage to share with people, family members or somebody, and then you still didn't feel protected, or what? Tell us about that.
It was a complicated dynamic. Like, so I thought my 11-year-old mind thought that if I told that I was going to get in trouble for it, that nobody would believe me, that it would just make things a whole lot worse. So 11-year-old me felt like it would be a not great idea, but it would be better for me to just keep
Mhm.
it to myself. And that was it. I literally just kept it to myself. I even told myself for years, like as I got older, like I described the experience as like a sexual experience that like I wanted, because people told me that, yeah, that didn't happen. Like, the people that did know just told me like it didn't happen. So I started to believe like, okay, it was my fault. So maybe it wasn't that. It was, I played a part in it. So it was a sexual experience when it was a violation.
Mhm.
So
And just listening to you, it sounds like it was someone that people wanted to protect. That's what it sounds like.
yeah, yes. And also it was something that is crazy because it was normalized kind of,
Mhm.
like it was normalized. So it wasn't the biggest deal, because other people within my community have a similar story. So it was just
Mhm.
like, okay, so that was the first guy. All right, move on. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So they kind of, I hate to say that people were desensitized to it, but it was normalized,
Mhm.
you
And you
know.
felt you carried the guilt, you carried the shame, you
Mhm.
asked the questions, well, what did I do? And how do
Yes.
I prevent this from happening again? One of the things that really break my heart, when we hosted the Woman Heal retreat last year in October, and the question came up about like rape and molestation, and it was about 50, 60 women at this intimate retreat. And I asked them, like, how many of you have been raped or molested? And over 80% of the women in that room had raised their hands. And my heart just broke, because I was just like, we as women are more alike than we are different. And
Seriously.
and our scars, we all have them, no matter how well we conceal them, but we all have them. And that's why conversations like this is so important, because we want women to know that it's okay to heal that little girl on the inside of you.
Mhm.
So let's go through that process. In what ways do you feel like it affected you growing up? Because you were 11, so you have a violation of trust, you have a violation of privacy, you're
Mhm.
being touched and different things are happening, then you don't feel protected. So, and I know we could go so many ways, whether it's dating dynamics or how you felt about yourself,
Oh yes.
self-esteem. So we can go whatever way you want to go with that. But how do you feel like that one experience that was pretty much overshadowed,
Mhm.
overlooked, and swept under the rug,
Right.
how did that affect you in years to come?
It would just affect so many different aspects of my life. I can definitely say that I was already an insecure child, but it made me more insecure. I had huge trust issues. Um, I thought something was like wrong with me because this happened. So like I literally, whenever I'm in dating, whenever I got probably the wrong attention, it was something that I ran with because I thought like, no one's going to want me because of that situation. So it affected me that way. I literally suppressed it for so long, and the feelings that came along with it, that, I was just really just angry. Feelings
Mhm.
of like just I was just like a mess, more or less. Like it was just really just I was a ball of emotion most of the time. I didn't really handle things well. My way of coping with the pain wasn't the greatest.
Mhm.
And then sometimes I didn't even know how to like really articulate what it was that I was feeling. I just knew that I felt bad about this experience. So, I just, was kind of taught to just push it under the rug. Like you said, sweep it right on under that rug. And I was functioning, working and, having normal teenage experiences and early 20s. And, I had fun and did things, but, that was pretty much it. Like dating was not good. It wasn't. It was just like, it felt like that experience made me feel like I was powerless as a child. So when I went into like relationships, I went in feeling the same way, like, or acting that way. Like I never said I felt powerless, but I was powerless. Like that was my behavior in my relationships with men, like powerless. Like I was that little girl all over again. When it came to men, just powerless and just kind of accepting things that I didn't have to accept, but once again, that power just felt like it was stripped from me. So I definitely just kind of felt like this was what I have to deal with, and just feeling low about myself too didn't help. So it was like powerless and unlovable and all these like negative beliefs about myself. Like that experience just created all these just different beliefs about myself. And I would go on for many years just acting in that, So yeah.
You kind of, the way you talk reminds me of Mary J. Blige. Like when I listen to her documentary, you from Connecticut, so
yeah, yes, I am.
So I hear it. She's writing a book, so I'm so excited about that.
Oh my God, yeah,
she's writing.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So even when you talk about like the molestation and all of that, so what I hear and what I see is, okay, so now that this has happened to you and you're trying to figure out what to do with all of these emotions, what to do with this experience, now you become perfect prey to another predator, whether it's manipulation or whether it's not being able to honor your body and not make your own decisions because now your lenses are foggy. So how did you find your safe place? And even we can even say how and when, from that happening at 11 and now you're a mature woman. And I know whenever we feel violated, like with my issues, it was abandonment and rejection. So it was so important to find like a safe place. And that could be a person, it could be a physical place, so how do you feel like you found that safe place? And if so, tell us a little bit about that.
So for me, it took a while for me to find that safe place. I don't think because of my trust issues, I didn't feel safe with anybody. I don't think anybody really saw, I don't think I ever really exposed myself to anybody. I was just out of fear of just, being judged or somebody telling me, this was your fault or whatever the case may be. So I hid my safe place. It wouldn't come until therapy. I had friends, but I think even with my friends, I was still so ashamed, they knew a lot, but the details and just how it affected me, I don't think that I really felt comfortable to really share that stuff. So therapy was when I was like, okay, I can sit here and have this experience and share. And that is when I first discovered the safe place.
And that's really good because we are advocates for therapy.
Yes.
Here on Woman Heal, I believe everybody needs one. I believe everybody need a coach, everybody need a therapist. So what place were you at in your life, or do you remember how old you were when you first went to therapy? And then let me just stop there. Do you remember how old you were when you first went to therapy for this particular situation?
So I would say maybe like somewhere in my 30s, I had experienced a major loss. So the crazy thing is the loss is what brought me to therapy. And then that came out in therapy. I'm telling you, Carla, like that whole molestation thing was just something I was convinced was just like a part of me. So I went to therapy thinking, let me address this grief that I'm feeling over the loss of a loved one or a couple of loved ones. And that's when it came out. But at that time, I was not ready to deal with everything that came with that. So therapy was short-lived in that situation. Like I stopped going. I was like, I can handle this on my own. I miss the people who I lost, but yeah, life is pretty okay. I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna do what I gotta do, take care of my kids, and I'll be all right, And nobody around me was doing therapy. So I'm like, you being a drama queen, girl, you're all right. You could do this. You strong, you could do this. You can just move on from this. So I just kind of was done with it and just literally moved on from it and didn't go back to therapy until like years later, then go back again till years later.
And I thank you for being so transparent about that, because oftentimes that happens with my clients all the time. Even in coaching, they can come to me like, I want to build my business, but because I focus on holistic transformation, we get to digging in, and I'm like, yeah, I need you to get in therapy. Yeah. Because you can't bring this over into this business, and you know what I mean. So take me back to when you decided, okay, and I just thank you for being so transparent. That's what I love about doing interviews with real women, because it's like, don't create no story for us. It's like, tell the truth. You was like, yo, I wasn't ready. The therapist could see it and she called it out, and I just was like, nah, you can't touch that. Yeah. And so you put that thing, like my therapist would say, you put it back in the attic, and
I did.
You left it there, but then somehow you had to go back again. Yeah. So bring us to that moment when, whatever led you to therapy again, and you was like, okay, now I got to deal with what really happened to me, because it was trauma.
Oh my gosh. So there's a saying I know you know of, that if you don't deal with your trauma, it will deal with you. So that's kind of what it was for me. Like I thought I could outrun it. I could put on my sneakers and just outrun it. So, I was moving through life, having fun, doing things, but as I got older, the things just got louder. You know what I'm saying? Like the trauma just got like louder. I just started feeling all kinds of ways, like the emotions and just different things. Like I was so reactive and so sensitive to just so many different things. And I was hurt. I was feeling a lot of pain, and I didn't know why. I was just like, what is this? I knew what it was, but I was just like, what is this? I can do it. And no, I ended up having to go, like realizing, just really getting tired, like not sleeping. It was everywhere. It was everywhere. I started to see it, and everywhere it was showing up, and I just wasn't, not even happy. I was just so low. So finally,
is that where depression kind of slid in?
Yes.
Well, take us through that.
Oh yeah. So like depression came in, like, I mean, with force, where it was just like, no matter what I did, I just couldn't bring myself to feel happy. I just had this mask on, like where I was pretending to be, happy and pretending to enjoy things that I didn't enjoy, or pretending to be okay with stuff that I wasn't okay with. And like my voice got lost, like it just was like, I'm just not going to say anything. I started avoiding things and, just showing up, just being what everybody else wanted me to be, or what everybody else needed me to be, or what I felt like would, be more liked and accepted amongst people. And it just, I couldn't do it no more. I could not. The pain of it was so bad. Like I would cry all the time, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And I have 3 children, and, they wasn't little girls. And I was just like, what picture do they have of me? Like what, as they grow up, like, gosh, is this spilling over into me parenting them? And, what will their memories of me be? And I grew up in a situation where, my mother was emotionally unavailable to me. And I remember what that felt like. And I did not want to continue that cycle. So I was just like, I gotta go. I got to go to therapy. And again, I was ashamed, because I was like, I am weak. Like nobody I knew was going to therapy. Like it was just like, girl, why you can't deal with this on your own?
And I'm glad you keep bringing that up, because that is a misconception that people think because you need help, because you may need a coach, or because you may need therapy. It's like, because with Black women, is you strong, we can handle this, our ancestors. And it's like, yeah, but why carry it if I don't have to? There are certain strategies and techniques that could make this process easier. I got to get this 11-year-old, because what happens is emotionally you could become stuck at that. I was stuck as a 5-year-old little girl between the ages of 5 and 8 when I was physically abused by my mom's second husband. So I was stuck in that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
emotional state for a long time. And then I had to learn about the inner child and
Oh
how
God,
to
yes.
nurse her. So let's talk about the turning point. You went back to therapy. Do you remember that moment of breakthrough for you where you were like, yo, I'm fine? Was it you acknowledging it and doing the work? What did that look like for you?
Well, for me, it was, and I feel like this is big, is finding the right therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of people don't realize, and a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, I hear people say things like, well, therapy didn't work for me, but the person is a huge part of it. The therapist that you choose is a big part of it. So if you're not like vibing with that person, then you're not going to put in. So then what you get out is not going to really be anything that, you feel is helpful to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I got linked with the right person, and that just made such a difference. So once I went in, she specialized in trauma. She was a Black woman, which was important to me. Like, I was very intentional about finding somebody who looked like me, that, knew the struggles that I had that I have and had growing up being an African American woman. So she just kind of, first, I would say maybe the first or second session is when she started to just tell me, like, girl, you have PTSD, that's what I'm seeing. And I was just blown away by that, because I'm just like, how? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
PTSD is like something that war soldiers get. How do I have that? I was blown away. And I considered myself to be someone that kind of thought I knew what she was going to say to me, like, just because I do kind of focus on a lot of like things, as far as I love that whole mental health thing and psychology, all those things. And when she said that, I was just puzzled. And then she started to explain what it was. And then I was blown away. And I think for me, that was the turning point, because it was now like a name to what it was that I was dealing with. And then I could like research it and see, like, okay, this is it, and I started just like pouring myself into the work that comes with therapy. And I just started just seeing so many things. Like, I saw, like you said, I was like, this 11-year-old girl was running the show. Like, she was running all parts of my life. And my lack of confidence, everything, like just how my body responded to the trauma, like when I was in uncomfortable situations, it just kind of enlightened me, and it made me aware. And it also gave me power. Like, I started feeling like I could get my power back, and I could change it. Like, I can change my life, and I don't have to settle for what my life has been. It changed my life, my way of thinking, everything. Everything was based on these negative core beliefs about myself. So I was settling for everything in life, like career.
Did you ever have to do an activity in therapy where you had to like write a letter to the 11-year-old you?
Yes.
What are some of the things that you had to say to her that
Oh my
you found to be challenging to say to her, but you knew you needed to say it?
That it wasn't her fault. That it wasn't her fault. That it was hard. It was freeing to tell her that, because nobody ever told me that as a child. Like, of course, because they didn't know, but just all the things that I had gone through, because like trauma, I thought was just like the stuff that I had dealt with, I thought was normal. Even though it affected me in a way, I was just like, okay, this is normal. So it was just, when I wrote letters to her, because I wrote a few of them, it was like, it wasn't your fault. And it was hard for me to get to the point where I was saying those things to her, and that I accept her, like the part of her that felt like she needed to change, like I accept who she is, and that, that she's brave, like telling her that all these things that I was just like, wow, because she was in fact all of those things. So it was a great exercise. It was freeing. Yeah.
I remember having to, I remember having to do that in therapy, and like through EMDR, like it's the type of therapy, like cognitive behavior therapy, all of that. And the biggest thing for me with telling my inner child was that you're safe, like you're safe.
Gosh.
Like, and even for our listeners, having that conversation with your inner child, because you carry her with you everywhere you go. So because like mine was my mother's second husband, so he's big in stature, I'm a young child. So as an adult, I would find myself like cowering down when I could be a boss in front of women. But then with men, I would notice I would like not say too much, or and that was because the little girl in me was scared, even though just because it was a male. And there are times when even today, I have to tell myself like we're safe, we good, and I'll do my breathing technique, because that anxiety can go through the roof. And that's what we're wanting women to know. Like, it's work. I know we got like 5 minutes left, but it's work. It's a process. Doing the work, you know, begins even before you go to therapy. It begins through acknowledgement.
Yes.
You know, it begins there. We cannot conquer what we're unwilling to confront. We can't confront what we're unwilling to identify. And so I'm never going to not celebrate your story. I'm going to keep saying it, because it takes a lot of courage. And of course, we can't get through all of it in this moment. But what would you say to women, to a woman that's listening now, and maybe she's been molested and that little girl inside of her is wounded, or maybe she's never been molested, but the inner child is, you know, she still carries guilt, shame, hurt, pain from various situations. What would you say to her?
You are worthy of healing, and that it's the best thing you'll ever, it's the biggest like form of self-love. It's the best thing you can ever do for yourself, is to just heal from that. Like, you might think that you're not like in some way suffering from it, but you are. Like, it shows up. You might be used to it, but it shows up, and life is so much better when you address it and just heal from it. You become a better woman, a better mother, a better sister, a better everything. So yeah, that would be my advice. Go get that healing. Get it. Is your right. It's your responsibility. Do it.
And we have a slogan here that says, what happened to you may not be your fault, but healing is your responsibility.
Yes,
so that's one of the ways that, because we talked about snatching our power back. And actually, in my book, Life After Betrayal, chapter 2 is called Snatch Your Power Back. Oh, wow. And so how we do that is through acknowledging, like, yo, I'm not what happened to me. Even the things that I did wrong, I'm not those things, and I forgive myself. But you got a dope blog, and you got a book that's coming, you're going to be working on. Hopefully we'll work together on their book. Yeah. But let people know how they can get in touch with you. We literally got like 3 minutes. So let them know how they can get in touch with you and connect with your blog, through your website, or your social media handles, whatever you want to share. Okay. So my the website for the blog is The Beauty of Butterflies. So www.thebeautyofbutterflies.com. Social media, I'm on Instagram as The Beauty of Butterflies. You can reach out to me there. It's a link in the bio there if you can't get onto the website. The book is coming soon. Yeah. So be on the lookout for that. But yes, that's a way that you can get in contact with me. Awesome. Thank you so much, Latanya. We are super excited. Enjoy today's episode. Be sure to subscribe and share with a sister friend who could use this information while on her journey to becoming. Join our live conversations that take place on Facebook and Instagram at Woman Heal Podcast. And remember, what happened to you may not be your fault, but healing is your responsibility. We'll see you next time. That's it.